Well, hello, everybody. Hope you're doing good today. I want to jump into my pep talk with you today. A few days ago, I shared 3 events that changed my life, and I was talking about my pep values, and I gave my first one, people matter. The way I actually stated is under God and beginning with my family, people matter more than anything. And I shared 3 stories with you, and you can go back, 3 events that changed my life. You can go back and look at that video. Today, I want to give the second part of my pep values, and that is equipping people for life and eternity. Under God, people matter more than anything. Beginning with my family, people matter more than anything, and I want to equip them for life and eternity. And there's a motivation behind it. And so to share that motivation with you, I want to share 3 stories as I did the last time. And so the first one is a very sad story in my life. Early on in my ministry, I had this couple, and they could not have a child, if I remember correctly. And so they ended up adopting. And they were both precious people. But they wanted so much to have the love of that child that they competed for that child's affection between them. And so there was always this competition, and children being what children are, he began to play them against each other. And so they, instead of getting together and doing what was right and best for that child to help him grow and mature, they ended up, as we say, when I was growing up, they spoiled him. And he had a tough life. He had not been disciplined. And then when he would spend time, he loved us. We were a young couple at the time, and we could see the need there. And so we would take up time with him. And when he was with us, he was so well behaved, and it just entirely different child. But run the clock up. And regrettably, that young man, because he did not have any restraints, he didn't know how to discipline himself, he ended up dying a very tragic death because of some very unwise choices. And when I look back over that, it breaks my heart for him and for that family, those parents who were so desperate because they couldn't have children, and they finally got one child, and they were so desperate to have the love and affirmation. They were trying to get something from the child that he could not give them, and they got off mission. And I look back over that. I was young back then, and I didn't really know what to do, but what they needed was someone to equip them, to teach them how to be parents. That's what they needed. And so, very, very sad story. Now, run the clock up. I'm many years, several decades later. I'm much older. I'm wiser. I'm sitting in a Shoney's, and one of the leaders in my church, my superior in so many ways, but he was having marital problems. They were having he and his wife were having some marital problems, and it centered around a child. And we were sitting there, and here's this man who was on my church council, a very influential person in the church, he and his wife both. And as I sat there and I listened to them talk, not in a mean way or using profanity or in a temper, but I got up with his wife sitting there. I got all in his face. I really gave him the riot act. I was telling him the truth. I was really being firm, and I was thinking to myself, this is either going to work or it's not. But I made the choice that I wanted to do what was best for him, and that his marriage and his child, and not what was best for me. And so God helped me, and it was kind of like a verbal punch in the face, a wake-up call. And he had the humility, he had the spirituality to know I was telling him the truth, and he changed. And we're dear friends to this day. And he'll call me from time to time and refer to that time, because it was a turning point in his life. But what he needed, they were both good people, but what he needed was equipping. He needed someone to equip him for life and eternity. And we as preachers, often we're good at the eternity part, but we forget about their life here on earth. And then sometimes those of us that aren't preachers, and there's a part of all of our lives, maybe as parents or at work, we're good at equipping people for life, but we forget that they need to be equipped for eternity. And we can work with people for years and never talk to them about Jesus, never just ask them a gentle question, what's going to happen after this life? Something as simple as that. But then there's a third question. As a pastor, church members, your pastor he's responsible for the upkeep of the church. He's responsible for feeding his own family. He's got all these needs, and it's on his plate that he needs to take care of as far as the management of the church and all this stuff. And so I remember I felt the pressure of raising the budget, and I preached this series on tithing, and it did good, and people began to tithe and to give sacrificially. And every year I'd preach a series of some kind on tithing. And I remember after a couple of years, I was looking at people, and God would come through. God will. If you'll tithe, I believe God will honor you and bless you. But I have learned that money flows toward people, to people that know how to handle it. And money flows away from people that do not. I don't care if you tithe or you don't tithe. If you don't know how to handle your money, it'll flow away from you. God can bless you, but it's like holes in the bottom of the bucket. And I would look at families in my church, and they would give God a praise report. Maybe God would work a miracle. They'd get an unexpected rebate. They'd get an unexpected check. Somebody'd give them a donation. Somebody'd come by and bail them out, and they would give God praise for that. And I think that's great. But one day the Holy Spirit began to speak to me. This year, yes, people need to tithe. People need to support the church. But why don't you teach them about how to manage their money well? Where they're not just living in a spirit of poverty and God's having to come through and bail them out. Teach them how the principle of redemption and lift. And I'll never forget, that was kind of a turning point in my life. And so I would preach one sermon on tithing, but then I'd preach 3 other sermons for the whole month. I'd preach a stewardship month, and I'd preach about the stewardship of life. And it was a turning point for me. And that's what I want to talk, just the next few moments with you, is I want you to be for your people. Pastor, be for your people, not for raising the budget, not for growing the number, not for getting volunteers. People know when we're up there preaching, and we love them, but they know when we're trying to get them to do something for our own benefit or for the benefit of the church and not for their benefit. And after a while, that gets wearisome. They have that lives. And for us, church is everything. We think about it almost every day. It consumes our lives. And we have to be honest. A lot of it is because it's our job. Well, they have jobs. They have a life. They have things that matter to them. And make sure I get it right. I remember, and I made a note and just kept it. It came back around the other day. I listened to a wonderful podcast where a guy was interviewing Frank Reich. Is that how you say it? R-E-I-C-H. He was, I don't know if he still is. I don't keep up with football, but he was a very successful coach for the Indianapolis Colts at the time. And he made this statement. He's one of the secrets for his success. He said he learned it from his dad. He said, surrender the results and focus on the people and the process, and the results will take care of themselves. Surrender the results and focus on the people and the process, and the results will take care of themselves. In other words, in that, focus on the players and on helping them to learn the plays, is what he, in the context. But as a pastor, if we'll be for the people, not for having a large church, not for making the budget, not for growing the number. Of course we want we want to make the budget. Of course, we want our church to grow. But the way that it'll happen, we're there. We exist not to grow a church, not to raise money, but we exist to find the lost and grow the found, help them to learn how to do life, both for now and eternity. And so before the people, and it's just a little subtle shift. But when you're planning your sermon schedules for next year, ask yourself, what do my people need? Not what does the church need? We need more volunteers. We need more people giving. We need this. We need that. No, the church exists for the people's sake, and let's be for them. Let's equip them for life and eternity. And so when you approach everything that you do, when you come up with a new program, a new plan, is it about growing the number? Are you doing something to just get more people in the pew, more dollars in the plate? Of course I want you, and we want to have more people in the pew, because that means we're increasing the chance that people's going to get to heaven. And more dollars means more ministry, more things that can be done. I understand that. We all understand that. But let's make it about the benefit, equipping people for life and eternity. Teach them how to parent. Teach them how to live. Teach them right from wrong. Teach them how to have hope. Teach them how to get to heaven. Teach them how to please God. Teach them how to mature in life and for eternity. So that's my E-value. There you go. God bless you guys. I love you. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and I'll probably talk to you again before Christmas. But anyway, Merry Christmasing as you're experiencing it day by day. Love you guys. See you around the bend. Let's keep running to win for the gospel's sake and for the benefit of God's people.